Say hello to everybody. Hello. Hello, Linchpin. How are you? Huh? You're the reason that sleep is a little elusive, huh? This is Lane. Lane is, you turned 12 weeks 2 days ago, right? So a little over 12 weeks old. And she is wonderful, and I love her. And she's very challenging, and she's a bit of a hand grenade. Aren't you? Aren't you a little hand grenade? You just don't know when the pin's pulled and you're going to blow the room up. You just don't know. You don't tell anybody. You just throw it with no warning. Yeah. So she has been diagnosed with multiple things, whether it's colic or reflux or potentially possessed by the devil or a combination of that and 28 other things. I think a lot of physicians just lump things into one category when they can't tell you exactly what it is. But she's getting better. Even what I'm doing right now would not have been possible even 2 weeks ago. I couldn't just hold her like this. She would just scream bloody murder all the time, like she was in pain or distress, which is heartbreaking, but it's very challenging because Emily and I could not walk away from her for even 2 minutes. Period, 2 minutes. But getting better. It was a tough 12 weeks, wasn't it? We're not out of the woods yet, but progress. Who doesn't care about my deadlift PR? I don't care about your deadlift PR, Daddy. Take care of me. I don't care. Oh, hello. Come on in.
Do you want to take her?
Yeah, I guess it'd be tough to answer questions with her. So here's the true hero. You can walk in. Here's the true hero.
Good morning.
So I told her that she's getting better.
You are.
She's getting better. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Bye-bye. See you in a bit.
Daddy.
Bye-bye. Okay. Real life, right? Real life is busy. Real life has challenges and responsibilities, things that distract you and make the time that you spend working out precious, and we want to be efficient with it at Linchpin, and so that's exactly why. Also, I want to be able to run around with her for many, many years to come. I want to be faster than her for as long as I can. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, if she got her mom's genetics, which I hope that she did, because they're better genetics than mine, then she will be a far better athlete than I ever was quickly in life. But hey, what can you do? Okay. Thank you, Melanie. Appreciate it. She was captivated by the screen. Captivated by it. Kids and technology, right? Wow. All right, let's dive into the questions today for the Ask Me Anything. And I've got the Linchpin shoutouts folder open right here, so at the end I can grab a few shoutouts. And let's see. Okay. Opening it up here. First, most upvoted question is from Chris L. Okay, I'm ready. Okay, here we go. I'll do my little thing for editing for the podcast. Here we are. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ask Me Anything for the CrossFit Linchpin private track Facebook group. Today is Thursday, September 23rd, 2021. As always, members submit questions, other members upvote them, and the most popular ones get answered live each week. So let's dive right in, because as always, there's some great stuff. First most upvoted question from Chris L. Can you walk us through your process for modifying the various options you provide, scaled, Leo, Neo, and the private track that derive from the RX workout of the day? Yeah, sure. We could spend a long time on this, but I'll try to get the major nuts and bolts across. And this will give you just enough information to be dangerous. So, and as I mentioned before, there's a new option that I'm adding to the private track that will become effective, I think, November 1st. The week of November 1st is when you'll start to see it as part of the new private track option. So Right now we have the prescribed workout of the day, the scaled option for the day, then the LEO, which stands for limited equipment option, or our dumbbell version for the workout of the day, and then our NEO, which is the no equipment option, which is a completely and utterly just body weight. Don't need any gear, you just need yourself and planet Earth and you're good to go. So we've got those 4 options every day. We're adding another option starting November 1st called the wild card option. And the wild card option will sit somewhere between prescribed and scaled. And it'll have, a bit of a wider strike zone, hence why it's the wild card option. It'll absolutely preserve the stimulus, but just based upon whatever the workout is that day, will dictate what I think the best choice for the wild card option is. And the best way to explain that is probably just getting to Chris's question and walking through a couple workouts and what the various options would be. So let's go with the most infamous, most well-known workout in CrossFit. Let's assume that the workout of the day was Fran. 21-15-9, thrusters and pull-ups. The thrusters are prescribed at 95 pounds for the men, 65 pounds for the women. A scaled option for that is we would make it probably 21-15-9 to probably stay with that rep scheme. We would lower the thruster loading down to, let's say, 65 pounds for men, 45 for women, and we would replace the pull-ups with a ring row. And the thought process behind that is the scaled option should be very approachable for the overwhelming majority of people. And so a 65 or a 45 pound thruster is very approachable for most people. And the ring row is beautiful because it's infinitely scalable, because all you need to do is just vary your body position, your angle of your torso by where you move your feet, and you can make ring rows so easy that you can do an unbroken set of 100, or you can angle your body to its darn near parallel with the ground, or you can even put your feet up on a box. You're using no momentum, no hip drive, and you can make ring rows arguably more challenging than strict dead hang pull-ups. So with a simple set of rings and just saying in the scaled option, ring rows, almost anybody where they are in their fitness journey, they're going to be able to do that scaled version of Fran, and that's a good thing. The limited equipment option for a workout like this would be relatively easy. Our limited equipment crew, we assume they don't have any fancy gear. They've got a pair of dumbbells, usually a pair of 50s for the men, a pair of 35s for the women, since that's what most people obtained when dumbbells made their appearance in the CrossFit Games Open years ago. We assume they have a rugged pull-up bar bolted to the wall, a jump rope, and a pair of gymnastics rings hanging from the pull-up bar. So for them, they're just doing dumbbell Fran, 21-15-9, thrusters and pull-ups. Now, here's where you could geek out unnecessarily. Okay, let's geek out unnecessarily for a second. Let me break out my old school calculator. Here we go. So, a set of 21 thrusters at 95 pounds. Okay, so 21 times 95 means you are moving, let me write this down, 1,995 pounds. Well, two 50-pound dumbbells weigh 100 pounds, not 95 pounds. So, if we did 21 dumbbell thrusters with a pair of 50s times 100, we're going to move 2,100 pounds. So we're moving 105 pounds more. So if we took the original number of 1,995 pounds moved that you would with the barbell, and we divided that by what the dumbbells weigh, it turns out we should do 19.9 thrusters. So, for the limited equipment option, should that first round be 20 thrusters instead of 21 to make it exactly, precisely, scientifically the same? I guess you could, but it's so darn close. Let's just keep it 21-15-9. It's cleaner. Everyone's doing the same rep scheme. They're doing slightly more work, but you know what? That's okay. That's why there are different options, because they're not all precisely and exactly the same. But what they all are is various, various options for people to choose whatever workout suits their needs, their day, their equipment, their location, their everything, and all of the options, to the best of our ability, mimic the intended stimulus of the day, and that is what is profoundly important. So, even the dumbbell thrusters, if you try to like crunch the numbers every time, sometimes that serves you well, sometimes it doesn't. That's the art versus science thing. But on something like this, a 2159 is going to work just fine. So, limited equipment crew, God bless you, you're doing dumbbell thrusters. Now, before we talk about the no equipment option, let's rewind it back to the wild card. So remember, I said that's going to make an appearance around November 1st. The wild card would live between the prescribed option of the day and the scaled option of the day. And the wild card is going to go in whatever direction that I want it to go. It's a bit of a wild card, but it could maybe reduce a loading. It could reduce a repetition range. It could reduce a potentially complex or very technical movement. It might do none of those. It might just vary how the workout is performed. And today actually would be an example of that. So what I would do for the wild card today for Fran, while prescribed Fran is 2159 thrusters and pull-ups, 9565. The wild card I would probably make as 5 rounds for time of 9 thrusters at the prescribed loading, 9565, and 9 pull-ups. So that wild card, where that gives some people who maybe find themselves between the prescribed Fran is a bit challenging. Like they can handle the loading, they can do some pull-ups, but those initial big sets of 21 are just going to kill the intensity for them. And Fran, relatively speaking, should be a short and sharp workout, right? Shorter time domain, higher intensity. So they would break up those initial sets of 21 more than maybe they ideally would, but they can kind of handle the loading. So, and they can do pull-ups. But the scaled is 2 scaled. So for the wild card option, giving them 5 rounds of 9 and 9, that's going to allow them to still get in by the end of the workout exactly the same amount of work that you would do in prescribed Fran, but just to get there in a different way, which might be a fantastic stepping stone for some people because you're doing smaller chunks of work. And so, again, that just might be a good example of what I might do for a wild card option on a day like today. Now, the no equipment option, that to the best of our ability mimics what we're doing for the workout of the day. Some days it's easier, some days it's more difficult depending upon what we're doing. There are just some things that are so tough to replicate with no gear whatsoever. And one of them is a pulling movement like a pull-up. I mean, we're assuming no gear, 0 gear. You don't have a tree branch, you don't have a sturdy table that you can kind of lie under and do like a row kind of, you've got nothing. And so in situations like that, pull-ups are very challenging to replicate. So on a day like today, things we might do for a no equipment option might be 5 rounds for time of a 45-second plank hold just to get yourself some midline stability going, which would absolutely be demanded by the dumbbell thruster. 5 rounds for time, maybe of 45 seconds of a plank hold, 30 air squats, and then 15 push-ups or hand release push-ups. So, you're getting the below parallel squatting with the thruster, you're getting the overhead pressing with the thruster as well. So we're going to get you some below parallel with the air squats, we're going to get you some pressing with the push-ups. Fitness will be achieved. And that number of air squats would get you, some quick math in my head, about 10 rounds of Cindy worth of air squats. So we're going to do more volume with the air squats in the no equipment option, whereas on the workout of the day, you're not doing that amount of volume, but you're loaded with dumbbells or barbells. So we're going to try to get you there, but just in a bit of a different way. And when thinking about all of these different options, always in the back of my mind, or the front of my mind, I should say, is, how is the body moving? How can we best mimic that in these different options, and what are we looking to improve, develop, or get stronger with whatever the workout of the day is, and that drives all the various options. Let's go one more example. We could do this all day long, but here's one more example. Another classic CrossFit named workout. Diane, 2159 again, deadlift, 225 pounds for men, 155 for women, and a handstand push-up traditionally done as kipping. So for the scaled option, we'd probably keep it as the 2159. We'd reduce the deadlift down to a 135 for men, 95 pounds for women. And for the handstand push-up, we would put in a shoulder press, most likely at about 50% of 1 rep max. Wouldn't expect anybody to get inverted. You're going to get wonderfully fit and strong, developing that pressing motion, not just with the handstand push-up, but with the shoulder press as well. Wild card option for today, so something which may land between the prescribed and the scaled, it could go in a couple different ways. We could, again, almost like we did with Fran, maybe somebody has the deads, has the handstand push-ups, but a set of 21 and a set of 15 is an intensity killer with the handstand push-ups. Well, we could again go to the 5 rounds of 9 and 9, and that would work really well. Or we could go a different route with the wild card option and assume that the handstand push-ups are kind of just off the table, because that's just where some people are, period, end of story. And they could do a 21-15-9 deadlift with a prescribed loading, and then probably a strict shoulder press, I would say at about 65% of 1 rep max. We could put in shoulder taps, we could put in some other things as well, but the wild card option is going to give us exactly those options. The limited equipment today, the dumbbells, this is going to work very well. We've got a couple options there as well. We could just go dumbbell deadlifts, do some calculations as to the amount of work that we would like to accomplish and figure out the reps for that. And dumbbell deadlifts are done with 2 dumbbells. Or we could take a different route and go single leg stiff-legged deadlifts for some beautiful variants that everybody would benefit from. And we can just pair that once again with the handstand push-up. And for the no equipment option today, so today is interesting. We think about the deadlift. We would very much like to strengthen the posterior chain. There's a ton of midline involved there as well, obviously. And then we have overhead pressing. For the posterior chain, we could work in broad jumps. We could work in glute bridges, even done with no loading. Glute bridges will light up the backside. And that's why we frequently say to take like a 1-second pause at the top. You can make glute bridges even more challenging, again with no loading, by just doing 1 leg at a time. So lift 1 leg off the ground and just have 1 leg on the ground and lower and raise yourself in a glute bridge position with just 1 leg and then switch it up. You'll burn up the backside in no time. You could also do a single leg stiff-legged deadlift, again without the loading, but doing those for a 1 to 2 minute stretch and seeing how many reps you can get in there. Again, you'll be shocked with no loading as to what you can do for your backside. But that first thing that I mentioned, so simple and so easy to overlook, broad jumps, explosive posterior chain movement, it's a great call right there. And, for the midline, we've got V-ups, sit-ups, various planks that we could do as well. And for the overhead pressing, depending upon the skill level and capacity of the athlete, we could keep the handstand push-ups, just kick against a tree or a fence or a wall or the side of a house or something. Or we could do all kinds of other pressing, from regular push-ups to hand-release push-ups, etc., etc. So again, whatever the option is, we're always trying to preserve the stimulus and allow us to just kind of meet people where they're at. And I do all this also knowing full well that it will never be enough. It will never be enough. Because there will always be somebody that falls just, they have to scale the scaled workout a little bit more. Nothing wrong with that. They somehow find themselves between the scaled and the wild card, or between the RX and the wild card. Just if you've got 200 people standing around and you give them 5 options, somebody will need a 6th option, or somebody will need a 7th option. So you then also start to go down this road of you don't want to provide too many options, because then you present this whole paralysis by analysis, the tyranny of choice kind of a deal. So my goal is to provide just, hopefully, an appropriate number of options, one of which fits you, and if it doesn't, it's just close enough that it sparks in your brain what would be a really nice fit. And you will be able to have that spark in your brain go off because of what we're so big at CrossFit Linchpin, which is education. Again, these videos, these Ask Me Anythings. The video that I attach to every single solitary day's training as to why we're doing what we're doing, the culmination, if you watch one of those videos, you don't have a high-level sophisticated knowledge of CrossFit, but if you watch them every day, week after week, month after month, year after year, you're going to have a wonderful knowledge base to make great decisions. So all of that kind of comes into play. So excellent question. Okay. Let's see. Next most upvoted question from Chris R. Oh, let's see. Back when I was a flow master. Here we go. Chris R. When you were a flow master at level 1 seminars, was there ever a question that you couldn't answer? Excellent question. I had to think long and hard about this. Rarely. Okay, that's the answer. And that's over the course of 4 or 5 years and 200 seminars. Rarely. It certainly did happen. And I could answer the overwhelming majority of the questions because most of them are relatively typical and straightforward because people are concerned about normal things, and so therefore you're prepared with answers to normal questions. And then also, that was such an influential time in my life for the bumping up of my just knowledge in general of CrossFit, the human body, exercise science, nutrition, blah, 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 because, my full-time job was doing these level 1 seminars, which is, Saturday and Sunday. Friday's usually a travel day. Maybe you get home on Sunday night. Maybe you get home on Monday, not sure. But let's say that you can count on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday being home, so to speak. And so people would think that oh, you work 2 days a week. That must be really nice. Of course, Friday's a travel day. So maybe it's oh, you work 3 days a week. That must be really nice. Yeah. And I guess you could do that and not do anything else during the week if, in my opinion, you wanted to be terrible at your job and not prepared for a question. At that time, I was not married, didn't have any children, and so I could become an over-the-top workaholic, which is quite frankly what I did. Probably not the best thing to live a balanced life, but it helped me be a very capable flow master. And so how I would spend my Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at home is either in my home or at the local coffee shop. I would just go there for 4 to 5 hours with whatever books, articles, website links, or whatever was related to my job and really getting in the weeds, and I would just study and read and study and read and just drop nuclear bombs on all these topics for 5 hours a day, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I did that 52 weeks a year for 4 to 5 years in a row. It's an absurd amount of just geeking out on the subject matter. And again, while it doesn't lead to being a very well-balanced human at that phase in my life, it did prepare me quite well for standing up in front of live audiences and being prepared for whatever somebody had to ask. So yeah, usually it went well. But I will say every now and then, somebody threw something out that I didn't have any darn clue what they were talking about. And what's funny about that, now I'm having one of those moments in my head as to whether or not I should tell the truth or sugarcoat the story. Let's tell the truth. No one's going to know who I'm talking about, and I don't even know the person's name. This is just random human beings would happen to every now and then. You meet a lot of people standing in front of live crowds every weekend for 5 years straight. If every crowd has 50 people in it, it's 10,000 people. You're going to meet some interesting characters, and you start to see patterns of human behavior. And it's funny. There was an interesting link, I promise you, with the crazy question that was so in the weeds that stumped me or one of the other trainers. It was almost every single time a question that wasn't that important but sounded very technical and very sciencey, but actually wasn't important to driving human performance or how you should eat. But it was somebody with some sort of advanced degree or wonderful pedigree or amazing vocabulary or whatever sitting in the audience, and they very much wanted everybody else in the audience to know that, hey, I'm pretty darn smart and I have a degree and I know things, so watch this question. Now, that's the God's honest truth. It didn't happen frequently, but it did happen every now and then, and it was so blatantly obvious when it did. And some highly specific question would be asked about, I don't know, what's happening with the mitochondria in the cells in response to this hormone? I don't know. Probably doesn't even really matter. I don't know. You totally stumped me. And in situations like that, what would be wonderful is I was never alone. I had 4 or 5 other incredibly intelligent, well-rounded, capable trainers near me that if I was stumped, I just, quite frankly, shout to the back of the room, Hey, have any of you guys got an idea what the answer to this question is? And if somebody profoundly intelligent like Eva Claire Sinkowski, was there, which she was there at plenty of seminars, especially if it was a nutrition question, she could mosey on up to the front, nuke whatever that question was to whatever incredibly nuanced degree they wanted to talk about, or what was going on in the cellular level and biochemistry. And what's funny, like I said, is almost every time when they finally circled this question around to the end, the point would be like, okay, we answered the question, but just so you know, none of that is really relevant to you just going home and eating a clean diet. You use some fantastic words that would be like a triple word score in Scrabble. They sounded fantastic. You're obviously very well educated. It's not needed to live a really healthy life and be a tremendous athlete. If you're working in a laboratory, yeah, you might want to know that, but you don't need to know that in your kitchen or your gym or to make anyone's life better or to improve your deadlift or whatever it happened to be. I can't remember a single time where some crazy nuanced question was asked that got stumped us and we finally figured out and we were like, well, geez, that's going to make everybody a lot fitter. It just never happened. So people are interesting. People are interesting creatures. When you deal with them in live audiences, you deal with all kinds of interesting things. So, that one of the toughest things to do in environments like that was to get people to let go of outdated, ineffective information that they were very committed to wanting to believe was true and accurate because they learned it in their university, because their professor told them. And they think because their professor told them in the university that it is truth and it is the most effective way to train, and it's shocking how much of that information regarding training and nutrition was amazingly outdated and ineffective. And so trying to get people to actually broaden their scope of vision and be open to new ideas was probably one of the biggest challenges that we faced on a regular basis. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, next, this is a good one too. Next question is from RD. Here we are. What non-common advice would you give to somebody just starting their CrossFit journey? Would that advice change for somebody who is more experienced? It's a good one. All right, here we go. My non-common advice for somebody just starting in CrossFit. I don't know if this is non-common, but people violate these things all the time, so maybe what I think should be common knowledge isn't. So I'm just going to say what the advice that I would give. I'm not sure if it's non-common, but this would be my advice. First of all, have the long game in mind. Okay, it's something that I didn't do and I wish I had done earlier in my CrossFit career. Have the long game in mind, meaning your long-term health, not just how you do on today's workout, not just how it's going to look on Instagram, not just what's happening this week or this month. Have the long-term game in mind. Your long-term health, the long-term health of your knees, your back, your shoulders, your mental health from not burning out by being unrealistic with what you're going to put yourself through in the workout of the day. I would say to live your life in couplets and triplets. Go heavy at least once a week, every now and then go long. That very simple advice is profoundly effective. Profoundly effective. But sometimes people get bored with what's simple. Even if it's effective, people crave the flash. And so I would say the simple stuff works. Simple does not mean easy. And don't chase the shiny objects. Stay with what works. Your life should revolve around pursuing what is effective and fun. Because it's not fun, you're not going to stick with it. And bear in mind, and this is my entire life, like helping people with their long-term health and fitness is my entire existence. And I'm here to tell you, most people should just calm down a little bit. We're just working out. I don't know what else to tell you, everybody. We're just working out. Don't overcomplicate it. Eat healthy to the best of your ability. Get with somebody that you know, like, and trust that's not going to steer you down a wrong path. Hit the workout of the day in an appropriate manner. Cool down. High five somebody. We'll see you tomorrow. Life's great. Consistency pays off. Consistency pays off. Trust the process. Stick with it. Again, the long-term game. Consistency pays off. And consistency isn't just a week or a month. 6 months, a year. We need some time. Consistency is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Here's some interesting stuff that I think is relevant that I wouldn't have told people 10 years ago, but I would tell them now, a new person, and then I would refresh it maybe in an older, a veteran CrossFitter's mind. Watch your wallet. Watch your wallet. The fitness landscape is changing. It's big business these days. And again, it's getting back into the shiny objects. There's a lot of sharks in the water saying whatever they have to do to get you just to swipe your Visa card. Don't really care if it's good for you. Don't really care if the data they're providing is meaningful. They're telling you you gotta buy this gear, gotta buy this gadget, gotta do this, whatever it happens to be. You need this, you need that. Swipe the Visa card. It's like an almost predatory environment these days in the fitness world. And maybe it's always been like that. Maybe I was just a little bit ignorant to it 10 years ago, but it strikes me in the face every time now as I scroll through social media and whatnot. So, again, watch your wallet. And I would say part of watching your wallet is all the stuff I said previously. Don't chase the shiny objects. Stick with what's effective, Fancy media doesn't mean something's effective. But there are some people out there spending, I think, just as much on marketing as anything else. And marketing, there's some very smart people out there who know how to influence consumers. And it doesn't matter what is effective. They can put out some fantastic marketing, and before you know it, you're opening up your wallet. So, again, maybe that's always how it's been, and I'm just becoming aware of it now, but it's shocking to me, as to what's going on. I would say what will also help you avoid that is find your people, find your community. I would love for that to be Linchpin, obviously, but if it's not, find your community wherever it happens to be. You need one, and you need to have yourself a support team and a network that will be there for you, will set you straight, you can bounce ideas off of, because again, we want you doing this for the long term. So find your community. It's absolutely mission critical. And I think the second part of Artie's question is, would this advice be different for an experienced CrossFitter? And I don't think that it would. Quite frankly, I think an experienced CrossFitter needs to hear it just as much, if not more, as a new one, because the experienced CrossFitter has been doing this maybe for years, and now they're going to be more susceptible to chasing the shiny object, to succumbing to the flashy media, and not actually sticking to what should drive all the decisions is what's really effective, what works, and what's fun. So that would be that. There's so much stuff we could say here. A new CrossFitter or a veteran CrossFitter, just because you've done CrossFit for a long time also doesn't mean you actually understand the methodology or why we do what we do, which is fine. That's not a slam on anybody. Not everybody wants to be a CrossFit geek. Plenty of people just want to show up, tell me what the workout is today, I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to go home. I got other stuff to do. That's why I have a training. That's why I go somewhere for programming. I put that responsibility on somebody else that I know and trust. You handle it. I got my life to live. Let's do that. Fantastic. Great. But what that can lead to is some people, I think, believe that just because they've been doing CrossFit for a long time means that they know a lot about it. And that's not the case. And I've used this example before. Most people drive a car every day. Doesn't mean they have any clue how a car is built. They don't know anything about engineering. And if they talk to a race car driver, it would be very obvious that they actually are a rather poor driver. Most people use money every day in transactions, but money is such a complicated medium as to how it works. Most people don't actually really know how money truly works. Life is full of these things that we have repeated exposure to for years, But repeated exposure does not mean competency or understanding. Those are two totally different things. So again, get with people that you know and trust that won't lead you astray, and find your tribe, find your community, your good people. So great question, RD. Fantastic. Okay. Final question is from Tyler. Tyler, I think you asked this question last week, but it didn't get upvoted enough, but it did this week. So here we go. Tyler S. Tyler says, any tips on choosing pull-up grip width? I've heard lots of advice on how to find grip width for barbell movements, but none for pull-ups. How does the grip vary for strict, kipping, chest to bar, etc., and how does that grip transfer to muscle-ups? So basically, grips for some gymnastics moves there. There might be a little bit of deviation from person to person based upon how you're built, but here's some good general advice. So grip width for pull-ups. If you think about like a front rack grip width for a front squat, meaning that your hands, your thumbs are outside of your shoulders, not profoundly so, but they are outside of your shoulders, just outside. That sort of a width is probably going to treat most people really well for strict pull-ups, for chin over bar pull-ups, kipping, and even for chest to bar pull-ups as well. That's a good general guideline. Narrower probably won't treat you well. Wider, it might treat some folks well, but it's probably not necessary for most people. You will see some people go, in my opinion, unnecessarily wide on some pull-ups. Maybe it's comfortable for them, but I think that originally came about for the same reasons that you would see people go obnoxiously wide on like a handstand push-up, because they realized, specifically in the competitive CrossFit realm, well, if I widen my grip a lot on a handstand push-up, I have effectively shortened the range of motion and I have to do less work. But you could say the same thing on a pull-up bar. If you had the ability to have a very wide grip, you are to some degree shortening the range of motion required to get your either chest to the bar or chin to the bar. Therefore, you're going to do less work. Therefore, you could cycle through the same number of pull-ups quicker, in theory, etc., etc. I don't like that mindset. I don't think that's a good long-term health, strength, and conditioning mindset. We shouldn't be looking for workarounds to do a workout faster just for the sake of working faster. We should be looking for the proper way to put our body in safe positions to strengthen our muscles through a full range of motion. So for most people, the grip width that I just mentioned before will work quite well. And that's assuming a pronated grip. Your palms are away from you. Now, I will say that if you have a supinated grip where your palms are facing you and you're doing pull-ups like that, then most people would probably enjoy a slightly narrower grip than the one I mentioned previously. A grip where almost your ring finger and your pinkies might touch your shoulders if you were pulling in that kind of position right there. And the muscle-up grip is very unique and different from what I just mentioned right there. You can do muscle-ups without a false grip, but we're going to stick with the false grip. So a false grip is quite different than the grips I just mentioned before. And the line of action is going to be a little bit different as well. Your elbows are going to be really in tight to your body. You're going to trace your hands around your ribs. So there's some unique differences to the muscle-up grip compared to the pull-up grip right there. And where I would point you towards is go to the CrossFit Linchpin YouTube channel, and under our instructional or educational content there, I've got 2 different videos on the low ring muscle-ups. And then in one of those videos, you'll be able to see what the false grip's actually like. You'll be able to see how you pull the line of action and all that. I walk through it in various ways, and that would probably be very illustrative for you. So I think that would treat you well. Okay, there we go. Let's dive into some Linchpin shoutouts. I see the comments saying that nobody cares what I'm talking about, that I should bring back my little baby that I had at the beginning. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you enjoyed my little girl there. All right, let's see. Let's start here. Boom. Okay. First one is entitled Community Motivation, and this is from Andy B. And again, posted in the Facebook group. This is when he did Isabel. Andy says, trust me when I say I love all the posts of people in this group
throwing out insane numbers and times and workouts like today's Isabel. I'll represent the mere mortals. My shoulder mobility sucks. I hardly ever snatch with a barbell because I'm afraid I'll hurt myself, but being part of this group motivates me to improve, and I've been working much more on my shoulder mobility. That being said, I completed Isabel for the first time today. I scaled it, but it was also the smoothest barbell snatches I have ever done. I appreciate this group. How cool is that? So again, kind of what I mentioned previously in one of the comments about advice that I would give. Find your people. Find your support network. Find your community. Life is a team sport. You don't have to do this stuff alone. Okay, next one. This one is entitled, Convinced His Wife, so you know it's going to be good. Matt F. Performed Saturday's workout today after sitting through both my anatomy and physiology exam and nutritional guidelines and exercise adaptation exam. Matt, I hope that went well. What a day for my wife to decide this was going to be her first time joining me for a workout. I've been chatting about scaling and the fact that most, if not all, exercises can be scaled both up or down in some way. It made her realize she can start somewhere and progress without feeling like it's too much. She scaled the ring dips to bench dips with heels on the ground, and the power cleans were done as very light dumbbell cleans just to move. She loved it, and we didn't time it so that I could work out alongside of her. How cool is that? Again, I could go down a rabbit hole in that. That's what it's all about. Spreading the word to other people, improving their lives, and Matt just exemplified what I talked about in one of the first questions when it was about the different options that we provide and how I can provide as many options as possible. The options paired with the knowledge you get from the videos of the day allow you to look at somebody else, such as Matt did with his wife, and say, okay, gotcha. Here's the workout of the day. Here's what you've got going on. This is going to be a great way for you to do it. That's a home run. That makes me incredibly happy. Okay, final one here. This is entitled Easiest Handstand Push-Ups in 4 Years from Joseph M.G. Okay, starts off, so no video, but I have witnesses. This program works. In the last 4 years, I just did the easiest handstand push-ups I've ever done. I looked at one of my managers and said, I'm going to do a handstand against that truck. He was at work, so how phenomenal is that? He goes, more power to you. So I kicked up, and while I was up there, I went down slow, felt my hat touch the floor, and pressed back up. And I was like, what? My other manager said I was doing some ninja stuff. I had some ninja stuff going on. How absolutely cool is that? So, very cool. Everybody in the community, you are the absolute best. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep supporting one another. And I'm going to go tend to my baby. Enjoy your rest day, and we will talk later.